The summer sun beat down hard on the small frontier town of Willow Creek, its dust-choked streets filled with murmurs of gossip, the creak of wagons, and the weary cries of children. Folks had gathered near the courthouse steps for something most detested but came to watch all the same, an auction. Not cattle this time, not land or wagons, but people. It wasn't legal, not exactly. But out on the frontier, where law came slow and survival came slower, desperate men found ways to profit off desperation. A widow without a protector, without means, might as well be put on the block like livestock. Samuel Hale, known across 3 counties as the Lonely Cowboy, stood on the edge of the crowd. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the weathered look of a man who had spent more years under the sky than under a roof. His horse was tied just beyond the post, its reins dangling. Samuel didn't usually linger in town. He came in for salt, flour, tools, then rode back to his quiet ranch on the outskirts where no one waited for him. He hadn't had a family since cholera took his parents and a scarred border fight took his brother. He had told himself he liked it that way. Silence, work, and the wide, endless prairie. Until he saw her. The widow. She stood on the wooden block as if nailed there, her back straight though her dress was worn at the hem. Dark hair hung in loose waves, a kerchief pulled over her brow to shield the sun. Her belly curved forward, heavy with unborn life. Around her clung 3 children, a boy of perhaps 10, his jaw set in fierce defiance, a girl of 7 with tangled braids, and a toddler no more than 3, clutching her skirts and crying softly. The auctioneer barked words. Widow, capable worker, comes with 3 strong young ones and another on the way, but Samuel barely heard. He was watching her eyes. Not downcast like many in her place. No, hers burned steady and unyielding, like she dared anyone to break her spirit. When the first bid came, it was from a man Samuel knew well enough to distrust, Silas Crowley, owner of the saloon. A man who used people, drank them down like whiskey, then left the bottle smashed on the floor. The widow flinched, her children clinging tighter. Samuel didn't think. He only stepped forward. $50, he called. A murmur ran through the crowd. 50 was more than a ranch hand might earn in months. Crowley sneered. 60. 80, Samuel answered, his voice even. Crowley's face turned purple, but he saw the resolve in Samuel's eyes and spat on the dirt. Ain't worth it, he muttered, backing off. The auctioneer's hammer struck. Sold to Mr. Samuel Hale. A hush fell, followed by scattered whispers. The Lonely Cowboy, who barely spoke to anyone, had just bought himself a pregnant widow with 3 children. Samuel walked forward, pulled a pouch of coins from his saddlebag, and set it down without a word. Then he turned to the widow. Up close, she was even braver-looking, though her lips trembled faintly. "You may regret this," she said, her voice steady but low. "I come with burdens, and I don't bend easy." Samuel tipped his hat, eyes steady on hers. "I ain't looking for easy. Come on. I'll take you home." The ride to his ranch was quiet but heavy with meaning. The children rode in the wagon Samuel brought for supplies. The widow sat beside him, hands resting on her swollen belly. She hadn't told him her name yet, and he didn't press. He noticed the boy watching him with sharp suspicion. Samuel respected it. The child was guarding what family he had left. At the ranch, Samuel showed them the small but sturdy house, the barn, the corral. The land stretched wide, lonely, and golden in the setting sun. The widow finally spoke her name, Eliza Carter. Her children, James, Clara, and little Ruth. They moved into the house that night. Samuel slept in the barn on a cot, leaving the rooms inside for them. He lay awake listening to the faint sounds of children's feet and Eliza's low humming to soothe them. His chest ached with something he hadn't felt in years. Belonging. The storm had passed, but its memory lingered in the air for days after. The prairie grass bent low, still heavy with rain, and the creek swelled with rushing brown water. In the little ranch house, though, there was a new kind of warmth. Eliza lay propped against pillows, her newborn daughter swaddled against her chest. Her other children clustered near, protective and curious. Samuel Hale had hardly left the porch since that night, keeping the lantern burning as though light alone could shield them from every harm. For a man who had lived in silence most of his days, the sounds inside his home now seemed almost holy. The soft squeaks of the newborn, Clara's humming while she rocked Ruth to sleep, James muttering as he tried to whittle a stick into something useful, life filled every corner. But along with life came fear. Eliza knew it well. She watched Samuel from the bed, his shoulders broad in the dim glow, the scar along his jaw catching the lamplight. He had been nothing but patient and steady since the night he bought her and the children. But she also knew men. She knew how they changed when burden weighed heavy, when hunger pressed, or when another man whispered lies in their ears. "You'll regret this," she had told him. She wasn't so sure he wouldn't, once the hardship of it all truly set in. A stranger at the fence. It was James who first spotted him, a rider coming slow down the trail, dust kicking up behind his horse. Samuel was in the field, mending a broken section of fence when James came running, breathless. "Mr. Hale!" the boy cried, pointing. "There's a man." Samuel straightened, narrowed his eyes against the glare. One look at the rider and his jaw clenched. Silas Crowley. The saloon owner rode easy, like he had all the time in the world. He tipped his hat mockingly as he drew near the fence. "Afternoon, Hale," he drawled. His eyes slid past Samuel to the house, where the curtains stirred. "How's that purchase of yours faring?" Samuel's grip on the fence post tightened. "Not your concern, Crowley." Crowley chuckled, swinging down from his saddle. "See, that's where you're wrong. That woman and her brats. Well, I had my eye on him first. Don't sit right with me, you walkin' off with what should have been mine." James stiffened beside Samuel, fists curling. Samuel put a steadying hand on the boy's shoulder. "She ain't property," Samuel said evenly. "She's under my roof now. That's the end of it." Crowley smirked, revealing a gold tooth. "We'll see, Cowboy. You can't guard 'em forever." With that, he mounted and rode off, leaving dust and unease in his wake. James looked up at Samuel, voice tight. "He's gonna come back, isn't he?" Samuel's eyes stayed on the horizon. "Maybe. But he won't take a thing from this place while I'm standin'." Ranch life. Despite the shadow of Crowley's words, life on the ranch moved forward. Samuel worked dawn till dusk, and little by little, Eliza insisted on helping. "You can't do it all yourself," she told him one morning, stubbornly tying her apron despite her healing body. "You need rest," Samuel countered. "I need to keep my hands busy," she replied, her chin lifting. "Else I'll go mad." So Eliza began tending the garden again, her children at her side. Samuel often caught her humming while she worked, a soft tune that carried on the wind. He said nothing, but the sound eased something deep inside him. At night, when the children were asleep, Samuel sometimes lingered on the porch while Eliza sat beside him, rocking the newborn. They spoke little, but words weren't needed. The silence between them felt different now, not empty, but full. James began shadowing Samuel everywhere. At first it was suspicion, but soon the boy's sharp eyes turned curious. Samuel showed him how to oil a saddle, how to track prints in the dirt, how to mend a rope. "You're teaching him too much," Eliza teased one evening. "He'll think he's already a man." Samuel glanced at James, who puffed out his chest proudly. "He'll need to be one sooner than he thinks," Samuel replied. Eliza's expression softened. She knew the truth in his words. Life out here demanded a boy grow fast. The threat returns. It was near sundown a week later when trouble came. Clara had been feeding the hens, Ruth toddling behind her, when the child suddenly cried out. Samuel dropped the feed sack and sprinted across the yard. There, on the fence post, hung a dead crow, tied by its feet. A crude warning. Eliza gasped, clutching the baby tighter. "It's him," she whispered. "It's Crowley." Samuel pulled the carcass down, his jaw tight. He tossed it into the fire pit without a word, then turned to James. "Get your sisters inside. Bolt the door." "But—" "Now, James." The boy obeyed, shepherding Clara and Ruth inside. Eliza hesitated, meeting Samuel's eyes. "You can't fight him alone," she said. "I don't plan to," Samuel replied. "But I'll be ready if he tries." That night, Samuel sat on the porch with his rifle across his knees, lantern dimmed. Hours passed, coyotes yipped in the distance, the wind rustled through the grass. But Crowley never came. Eliza peeked through the curtain now and then, watching the lonely cowboy keep watch for her and her children. She hugged her baby close, tears pricking her eyes. Maybe he wouldn't regret them after all. The fire in the barn. Crowley struck 2 nights later. Samuel woke to the smell of smoke. He bolted upright, grabbed his rifle, and raced outside. The barn was ablaze, flames licking high into the night sky. "Stay inside!" he roared toward the house, knowing Eliza would hear. But James was already running after him, shouting, "The horses!" Together, they flung the barn doors open. The terrified animals kicked and screamed, eyes rolling white. Samuel shoved James aside. "Get back!" He rushed in, cutting halters, slapping the horses to drive them out. Just as the last mare bolted free, a shadow moved at the far side of the barn. Crowley! He held a torch, his face twisted with fury. "You should have stayed out of my way, Hale," he spat. Samuel raised his rifle, but before he could fire, Crowley lunged, swinging the torch. They grappled, smoke choking their lungs, heat searing. The torch fell, sparks scattering. It was James who acted, snatching up a fallen shovel and swinging it with all his might. The blow caught Crowley's arm, knocking him off balance. Samuel seized the chance, driving him hard into the dirt. The outlaw scrambled to his feet and fled into the darkness, leaving the barn collapsing in flames behind him. Samuel and James staggered out just as the roof caved. The boy was coughing hard, soot streaking his face. Samuel gripped his shoulder. "You did good, son." James's eyes widened. You called me son." Samuel froze, then nodded once. "That's what you are now." The choice. By morning, the barn was nothing but charred beams and ash. They had saved the animals, but supplies were lost. Still, Eliza moved through the ruin with steady steps, her baby in her arms, her children at her skirts. She turned to Samuel, her eyes full of both fear and hope. "We bring you nothing but trouble," she said softly. "You can still send us away, Samuel. No one would blame you." Samuel looked at her long and hard. Then he shook his head. "I've been alone most my life," he said. "A man can get used to silence, but it eats him hollow inside. You and these young uns, you filled this place with life. I ain't lettin' that go. Not for Crowley, not for fire, not for anything." Eliza's throat tightened. Slowly, she stepped closer, her free hand brushing his arm. "Then I reckon," she whispered, "you won't regret us after all." For the first time in years, Samuel Hale let himself smile fully, without restraint. He looked at Eliza, at the children peeking from behind her skirts, and at the newborn sleeping peacefully.